Okay.
Okay, thanks for joining us today for Master Coaches Wednesday Weekly Buzz and our after show Buzz Reaction. I'm Ruth Nelson, joined by Hall of Famers Mick Haley, Bob Bertucci, and Brian Gimolero, bringing you the most current issues and trends in volleyball. If you're viewing for the first time, you'll have a chance to listen to leaders in our sport provide their perspective on the questions that are asked, along with a discussion on topics that are current and ones that are affecting all of us during this challenging time. Our Buzz Reaction show will now have featured guests that have been selected from our Sign Up to Be a Guest program. Be sure to listen to the details at the end of our show on how to get on the guest list. Newsflash, be sure to check out ncaa.org to find out which colleges are playing this spring, and continue to support your sport by following your favorite team on social media and watching the many matches on your favorite channel. Today's guest will dive deep into the innovative ways coaches, programs, and staff can utilize mentors and consultants to assist in creating a positive learning environment. Football and men's and women's basketball coaches have been utilizing this approach for many years. Finding the right match can be the most rewarding experiences of a coach's career. So let's head over to Austin, Texas, where former Olympic coach Mick Haley has better electricity than I do, because I'm on a hotspot and it's not very good right now. Mick?
Thank you, Ruth. And yeah, if I have to put up my umbrella, it's because my office is leaking. I'm not sure if I got a broken pipe or if got ice backing up. At least we have power. That's a good thing today. So pretty excited. And I'm excited to introduce our guests today. This is a trifecta as far as I'm concerned. We have Ashley Preston, the head coach of Cal State Fullerton, and our entire staff here today. Ash, you want to introduce your staff for us right now?
Yeah, my staff is, thank you, Mick. My staff is Coach Nicole Polster and Coach Nikki Cannon. So that's both of my staff. Nicole is also the setters coach, and Nikki is the recruiting coordinator for our program.
Welcome, everybody. It's pretty nice to have you on, and it's fun for me because I had a chance to work with you a little bit, but it's pretty interesting, our show today, because we're finding out that volleyball hasn't utilized mentors and consultants to the level that other team sports have been using them in collegiate sports today. I wasn't aware of this until actually you and I got hooked up a little bit, and it's been a pretty interesting road. Maybe you can just kind of explain how this all worked, and maybe how it affected our relationship and how it's affected your relationship with your assistants.
Yeah, so in 2019, we did just a complete overhaul of the program and the culture, and we were already on this journey as a coaching staff with doing things to help our program. And so a part of it was me being aware of myself as a leader and what I needed as a leader, and then having a conversation. And I'm thankful that my administration supported that. And they asked, like, how can we help you better this environment, not only for yourself, but your staff, as well as especially your young women. And one of the first things I said is, like, I need a coaching mentor. And it really comes down to, honestly, I had to let go of my ego as a head coach and be like, I know everything. I don't need someone coming in and telling me what to do. And a part of that was imposter syndrome, honestly. And so when I humbled myself and really realized what I needed, you were recommended by a colleague, and I told my administration, and you met with my boss as well, because it was important that he also was comfortable with the match and stuff. And I'll never forget this, Mick. One of the first things you said is, like, man, you've been on a journey here. How can I help you? And who are you? Not as the coach, but who are you as Ashley? And I really appreciated that, because that means you want to see me as the person I am first and not judge me based on my wins and loss column, right? And so, and then I'll never forget this too, because it's so funny, because I remember talking to you and like, yeah, Durango High School, Bob Kelly. And you're like, you play for Bob Kelly? Oh, you good in my book. So shout out to Bob Kelly, because that's, if people know Las Vegas volleyball, they know Bob Kelly. So, and then it was just a partnership too with my staff. I had a conversation with my staff as well and said, hey, like, I think that this is important for me. What do you guys think about this? And we had an honest conversation of us together of what are your reservations about having a Olympic coach and national championship winning coach as for us to talk to us. And one of the greatest things is, like I said, it wasn't that Mick talked at us or looked down at us as a staff. He always was that support for us of how can I help you better your program. So I really appreciated that.
So Ashley, this is Bob. I think you're, really an innovator at least in volleyball to take this big step and have someone like Mick be your mentor. And it was interesting once we started, actually diving into this whole concept of mentor and consultant as master coaches, that, my feeling was this would have been tremendous for me, 40 years ago when or 40 plus years ago now when I first started coaching, because my first job was as a head coach. And yeah. I had nobody, telling me how to do it. It was like trial and error. Heck, I'm still doing it trial and error, because I never had that mentoring program, where you were, a grad assistant, a second assistant, a first assistant. I just jumped right into it. So it was really interesting to hear that you and your staff did this with Mick. And then, of course, that got me to say, well, Mick, I'm going to call you up now and ask you. Really has been valuable to look out to some other people that you feel like, you can share things with and get information from. And then we found out that Brian has worked with Nicole a little bit, and Ruth has worked with Nikki a little bit, in over the course of their career. So, I think this is great. And I'd like Brian maybe to talk about, how you work with Nicole.
Only my whole life.
That's a good one.
Hi, you three. How are you? It's really cold in Texas and Connecticut where the other three coaches are. So I put the sweater on to make them feel better. But the three of us living in Long Beach and Seal Beach at 70 something degrees is a tough day today, No, I was lucky enough to coach Nicole for 4 years at Long Beach, and I'm really proud of you, how you've become such a good coach too. I didn't ruin you, so that's a good thing. It's a nice thing, and getting to know Ashley and you. I was lucky. I was one of the lucky ones too. I wish that I had a formal situation like we're talking about now, but I was thrown into being a head coach right away, and I was lucky enough to be around your mom, Debbie Green, who was the first great setter in this, debatably the first great setter in this country, brought the game forward, and then we worked together for a million years. But Nicole, I guess I'll ask you directly: how can this help you? What would you recommend to coaches out there and to us as mentors, how this would work best?
Yeah, I think Ashley said it perfectly. You kind of have to drop your ego after the first year or so of coaching and realize that you still have a lot to learn, and there's a lot of people out there who can help you with that. And also, like Ashley said, is talking to us, and working with us, not at us, because, we do want help. We need help. I need help. You guys have done this for so many years. It can be a quick conversation of, oh, I didn't realize that was an option, or that's a solution. And so just really like a conversation, instead of, okay, I've had this many years of, experience, and this is what you need to do. This will change everything, because every team is different. What we're working with here and what we're experiencing at Fullerton, changing the culture coming in here. Ashley said, we're going to change the culture, which, from watching Long Beach State my whole life and playing on the team, that was already there. That's not something that I had to come in and help with, or I just had to uphold it. And so, just having those conversations and being candid about it and accepting that you do have things to learn.
Yeah. Ashley, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, Nicole is spot on as it relates to that. And really, honestly, like certain things Mick shared with us, like we didn't even think about, right? And so, and I appreciated Mick too. He didn't look at our team and be like, well, you need better recruits. You need to recruit better. You ain't got nothing here. He said when he first walked in, he goes, well, you got they look like they like each other. So you got that part down, because half teams don't look like they like each other. And I was like, okay, good. And just the small insights and stories, because I love storytelling. I also love the old heads, just because I saw my grandfather every single day. And so Bill Ellis is the best man I've ever known in my life. And so with that, as it relates to sports, he played at UCLA for John Wooden. So as it relates to sports, I would sit with him and talk to him about sports all of my life. So I was so unafraid, Brian. I'll never forget coming up to you, right? And saying like, B, the one thing I know about you, and this is me first having this job. And I said, and you're like, what, Ashley? And I said, when I was a volleyball player, I looked at Brian's team and was like, oh, you mean Long Beach State? They're the ones that recruit Black girls on the West Coast. And Brian laughed, and Brian said like, hey, it's been a journey, Ashley, but you as a Black female volleyball coach in Orange County, good luck, sweetheart. And then that's what started our conversations. And like we said, I'm fortunate that our administration paid for it, right? But in my circle, I have so many mentors, you know what I mean? And talk. So it's something that isn't really highlighted, like you said, in volleyball, like to put on paper with administration, but that's what I really want, especially for younger coaches that get thrown in, like me, right? And get thrown into these jobs, and we don't know what we don't know. And so you got to have your village, and a part of that village is mentors. So there's things that Mick can't tell me as a woman, and especially as a Black woman, right? So I have a mentor for that, but Mick was a great coaching mentor for me in this time. And because we had a relationship and established and built a relationship, like basically Ruth and Nikki that I know, because I know Ruth encouraged Nikki to apply for my position and outright said, without a question, go do it, Ashley. And I appreciate even, Ruth giving that support to Nikki, because I know Nikki thought like, oh, I'm just a JUCO assistant. Like, no, I think her story is amazing too in that. And she got her strength from her mentor, Ruth.
I think it's important what you said, Ashley, in the sense that I'm an older white male, I know who I am. I was fortunate enough to coach several strong Black women volleyball players. And I can't tell you what a Black woman would think. But I can tell you what they told me. I can share their experiences with a player, with another Black woman. I can, but I'm not about to suggest how you feel about things. But I think it's really important that the reason I say that is I think that it's important that coaches feel, we have in our four of us have over 160 years of experience. And as I got to know the four of us, as we got to know each other, I realized how non-threatening and how giving they are. Yeah. So I think it's important for everyone to see that this is not a threat.
Yeah.
This is to come in quietly, not take credit for it. Look, and hopefully there's some results, but to support and help people and share our experience with you. That's I just wanted to kind of say that. And And I'm going to pass this over to Ruth, by the way, you picked Mick in the beginning. Now you can't change. And Ruth and Bob are a lot better than Mick, but it's too late now. So it's too late. You're stuck with Mick.
I'm stuck with Mick, right? I'm stuck.
You're stuck with Mick now. Yeah. So I got to turn this over to Ruth.
Okay, so I'm just thinking through this. And do you think that, well, I know this, a lot of people think that because we've been in the game and we are not up to date, we don't know what the millennials think. We don't know that people can still work hard. And I'm not going to talk for Mick, but I know he's pretty close to my age, but I got more hair than he does. I'm just going to tell you that it has nothing to do with age. So I'm going to throw this to Nikki. Nikki, how can I possibly be a mentor? Because I'm too old to know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the skills are. And I don't know what's going on in the game. I'm not coaching, anymore. I'm just out there mentoring.
Yeah, it's actually, that's funny you say that, because I always say, like, Ruth is the most active, energetic person I've ever met, nonstop, like a glutton for being as busy as possible. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, especially then working with the littles and BYOP and all that, I'm like, woo, little kids take it out of you. You're just on the go 24/7. So, yeah, definitely as far as how do us old heads be mentors? I mean, you guys were such spearheads at the beginning and have been so involved throughout, and even staying connected and being mentors to us younger generation. I mean, being at all the AVCAs and doing, the demos and leading the conversation and the discussions. I mean, I've learned so much from all of you guys, and, I've been lucky enough to sit in Ruth's gym and to just watch and observe, the transition when a drill's not working, like how do you transition to the next thing, and what things to pick up on. And I've been able to run some of the sessions in some of Ruth's camps, and just to get the feedback afterwards of like, hey, that one was going too long. Like, hey, what's the next thing? I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. You can tell, like, it's time to move on to the next thing. And just the little things, and like Ashley was saying, the stories, what we have learned from stories. And I know, Ruth, you love telling stories, and I love it because I feel like it is relatable, in so many situations. And I remember when Mick came in and told us the story of, being the Stanford of the Big West. And, that still is such a big thing for us. And like our players love that, and yeah, I mean, you guys.
So I got the other part of my part 2 question is, in order, each person that you have on your staff, there's like each of you may have different mentors, and then you may have different consultants, and then you have different ideas that are thrown out to you. So would you say that, Ashley, you've been mentored? Has that really helped you develop your mentorship capabilities with your own staff?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because the colleague that recommended Mick, she said, she was like, Mick is helping you be wise and you're keeping Mick young, And so in talking with Mick, just even about staff and stuff like that, of like, how do I have a conversation? Because Mick knows I'm nice. I'm like, okay, how do I have a conversation when things aren't going the way I want to see them go with my staff? And because he knows both of my staff, because it wasn't just me going through it, it was him mentoring all 3 of us. He was able to say like, oh, this is how you articulate this, or what do you want to see done? And how do you want to be clear with your staff on what you want to see done, and things like that. Mick helped me with that as it relates to being a better manager, because a lot of people, you can coach, X's and O's, you can recruit, but managing people is a skill that you have to develop and then constantly grow. And so in that was a part of our growth as well. And even Mick understanding the culture that we set with our team and our goals for our team and really hearing us when we were like, we want to focus on the process, not the outcome, right? And I'll never forget it too. Playing in Hawaii, I have to breathe before I say it, but playing in Hawaii and losing in 5 when we were up 2 against Hawaii. And I remember calling Mick and just so sad and be like, Mick, I really wanted it. And he was like, that's the problem. You, as the head coach, were focusing on the outcome and not the process. So imagine how your team was doing in that 3rd set and then continuing to do. So they were so worried. And I was like, dang it, you're right. And so that accountability that's held from Mick to me, I'm able to then impart with my staff, and then we can develop and have a dialogue too of like, okay, from what we've learned from here, what can we do better as a staff? And so, yeah.
I know Mick has another question, but the last part of this was, why do you think in 3 or less words, more people don't have consultants or mentors in volleyball?
In 3 words or less, lack of emotional leadership or maturity.
Okay. Nikki?
Lack of humility.
Okay. Nicole?
The thought that they know everything already. So that was way more than 3
I
words.
prepped them for your last question.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask Nicole, is that what happens when she talks to her mother wants to talk to her about one of these things?
Having a mother-daughter relationship and especially having been coached by her, and now I'm pretty much doing the same thing that she is, which I appreciate her because she didn't push me into this at all. She always knew that this is something that I probably should do, but she never was like, she's just, maybe check it out, see what happens, do it for a year. And here I am 7 years later. But my mom and I, she is a mentor. I will say that. I'm so lucky to have watched her and Brian coach at such a high level for so many years. And they're like a married couple. They know each other so well. It's crazy. But we definitely had to figure out that mother-daughter part. You know, and she comes to every game and she has her notes ready during the game, not after, during. If she could come to the bench, she would. And she has before. During timeout.
I'll just finish with saying this. When we first started, what I would do at Texas, I went to Texas in 1980 from the junior college, Nikki, and I didn't really get Texas was a big deal. I just thought, okay, it's a place I can get 4-year coach and, they're going to pay me and we have good athletes and I can go for it. And I found out real quick that I didn't know what I didn't know. Okay. And that's a pretty interesting thing when you come to the realization that you don't know what you don't know. And that may sound somewhat dumb, but you do what you do and you do it so well that you don't think there's anything else to it. So I used to, my wife and I built a house out east of Austin and had this big porch on the back looking out into a mesquite grove of trees. And I would invite Jim Coleman and a number of coaches to come and stay with me for 3 or 4 days. I'd pick them up at the airport. We'd go and sit on my back porch. I had a BB gun, and we'd shoot the BB gun and try to hit cans in a tree that I hung up, and we'd talk volleyball. And I'd be able to ask my questions, and then I'd barbecue, and everybody would eat, and we'd sit around and talk. And that was how I went after mentors or consultants because I was trying to learn new things about the game and how could I catch up with the California teams and how could we be that kind of a thing. So in doing that, I went out and found mentors. Then going through, when I got halfway into it, my mentors were no longer there anymore. I was not comfortable asking people of my own age or present coaches to share. Well, Bobby Knight, when he was basketball coach, used to go fishing with the Gonzaga basketball coach, and they would talk basketball all the time. Football coaches all the time do things together and talk about different offenses or different defenses. But I don't see that happening in volleyball. I see us being very closed in and afraid to share or thinking that would show weakness. Did you have any of those feelings, Ashley, or am I just supposing some things here?
Everything I talk about is from a space of my own personal experience, So even when I said lack of emotional leadership or maturity, it's because I lacked that at that time, But yeah, I think it just needs to be more verbalized, because I do have colleagues that I reach out to that are in the game. And I'm very open with people, but then I realize people aren't open with who they talk about, because this may be my opponent, or like we say in our gym, the ops. And so as it relates to that, like Sean Kufferberg is someone I talk to all the time, who's at Howard University, and we're colleagues, and he has helped me as it relates to budget, as it relates to hustling, recruiting, because he is a hustler. He has to be at a HBCU, and shout out to HBCUs because that's where I come from and will always represent. But yeah, my coach, Ramona Riley Bozier, she has been at Morgan State University for 35 years. Now, granted, when I was coaching against her at Coppin, we weren't asking each other for advice, but being here, and especially just her being a part of my journey and story too, I have reached back out to her, and we have a great relationship talking about different things. And so like I said, it happens a little bit, but not enough people talk about it, because I think it's a sense of, if I say I'm talking to Brian about volleyball, then I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't want the world to think I don't know what I'm doing, right?
And that's not true at all.
And it's not, and I really realized that, right? Or like he's gonna come in and tell me what to do, and all of those fears that we have, because I'm the head coach, so I should know everything. I should know how to be successful. I should know how to win. And I have to, and all of those things, and all the pressures that we have on ourselves, that administrators put on us too, because unfortunately, as it relates to administrators, there aren't any more really administrators who coached collegiate.
Yeah. And that's something we ought to do another show on, right?
Okay, maybe.
About that, because I know you and Brian and Bob and Ruth all have really good opinions about that, but we unfortunately run out of time here. So
okay.
Ruth is giving me the business here, and rightfully so.
Okay.
So I'm going to send it back to you, Ruth, and Ashley, Nicole, Nikki. Thank you so much, you guys. You were great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, book your Master Coaches custom virtual clinics today by heading over to our Instagram. If you'd like to be on our guest list, go over to Buzz Reaction Show and just want to be a guest, and guest sign up, and you'll receive our updates, and your name goes on our guest appearance list. Our weekly Buzz shows are on YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Volleyball Master Coaches, Instagram and Twitter, VB Master Coaches. A special shout out to our partners, SNA Sports and Baden Sports, and thanks to our content providers, NFHS, JVA, Coaches Insider, and AVCA. John, we are going right to you, who is our digital partner for Buzz Reaction and Buzz, Dr. John Foreman, who will update you on his most recent podcast. John.
Well, Ruth likes my most recent podcast a heck of a lot. So I guess I have to promo it, because that was with Beth Lanier, kind of reiterating some of the stuff from Buzz, talking about her book, and importantly, talking about how it could be influential for people who are not college coaches, whether it's from a coaching perspective or maybe a club director, some things like that. So that's okay. Apparently it's worth listening to, because Ruth gave it her seal of approval. So check that out, coachingvb.com. You can find it there, or you can check it out on Apple iTunes and wherever else you get your podcasts. So with that, we can roll into the buzz. Now I've got a couple of comments here from Facebook.
Okay, but let's let Ashley, Nikki, and Nicole, if you guys want to go and practice all your jumping at home, because we know
Thanks
you're
very
not.
much, you guys, for coming on with us. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It's nice to see all of you.
Great to see all of you. Bob, nice meeting you. I've never met you, but you the man, Bob. And so
He's a real trip. You have to get to know him.
Okay, I will. Hey, if you're with this group, you are great with me, Bob. So
That's true. There's a lot of truth to that.
Okay.
Bye, Nicole. Bye, Nikki.
Yeah.
Welcome
Right.
to the Buzz Reaction today, and we have two guests coming on in the last 15 minutes as part of our Wanted Guest program, which we'll introduce them later in the show. Now let's hear from Master Coaches Mick, Bob, and Brian on their thoughts on today's Weekly Buzz show. And guess what? We're going to Brian first.
Wait.
Let's have John tell us the questions.
Well, it's not questions, they're shout outs mostly.
Okay.
Well, we've got to make sure, people are spending the time typing in. We've got to give them some credit. The first one is from Mick from Celio Camargo. Does that sound familiar?
Celio,
This is, hi, Mick, I miss you. There you go.
Brazilian coach with the 2000 Olympic team.
Okay. The next one is from Chantel Cornelius Davis, who says, mentors are the secret weapons of achieving success in all areas of life, professional and personal. You guys get it. Keep it up. Bravo.
Chantel.
There we go.
There you go.
Hereford, Texas graduate.
Okay,
All right.
Brian, you're on with a new computer and a new virtual background. We love it.
I think the most important message that we try to give to potential coach clients is that this is not a threatening situation. It's not about us. It's about how we can help quietly, privately. We guide, we can share our experiences and we can share a great deal of success, but we're not taking over, and it's in a non-threatening environment. But I think people need help, and they need to be protected, and they need to, find a better way with their administration that hopefully we can mentor and change. But I think that's something that we all believe in, and we want to get across, that this is not a threat. We're not trying to be a threat in any way to the success of the individual program.
Yeah, I would follow that by saying I've had experience this year working with probably 5 different teams, but the most important thing when you are working with like Brian or Bob or Ruth or one of us like that is that you just don't do whatever we talk about, because it has to fit with what you're doing. All we're doing here is supplementing your knowledge in some ways and reinforcing some of the things that you're really doing well that you need to stay with. And those sometimes are all you need to get over that hump and really be successful. I found when I brought my consultants in that they were wonderful about they never said, well, you're doing this wrong or you're not doing this correctly. They always said, have you thought about this, or does this fit into your system at all? Or as Ashley said, stay with the process. Don't change and go to trying to just win to be your bottom line, so to speak. So that's what I kind of got from the Buzz, or wanted those people to get from the Buzz, or wanted our listeners to get from the Buzz, because I find it's very easy to get, and I'll use this term, unstuck. If you can talk with somebody who really has had some experience at the highest level and at lower levels and has still become successful, because it really pushes you through, I think. I don't know how the rest of you feel about that, but that's how I feel.
Agreed.
Bob?
Yeah, I think Ashley mentioned something that really kind of stuck for me, because I think I felt that the same way for so many years, when she mentioned how, you just don't want to go out and ask somebody else because you're supposed to know it. And I felt like I was always in that situation, and never took advantage of all the, I had a lot of great relationships, over the years with other volleyball coaches and people in the game. Never took advantage of it until last year when I said, Mick, take a look at my film here. What do you think? And we got to talking about it because we were spending so much time doing this show and getting things set up. I just finally felt comfortable asking somebody. I was just lucky enough to have some really good assistant coaches that always gave me a different perspective. But it would have been really useful, like Brian said, to have a group of people that are not threatening. They're not, they're not going to be looking at, hey, you're doing something wrong, and more of, hey, Leah, let me help you through this. And then you have to make the decision, if that method works or doesn't work, but at least there's a sounding board there.
Well, I think for me, I think there's two things. There's people with less experience than us, and then there's people with a lot less experience. And I think that the people that have less experience, or maybe a little more experience, there's still an avenue, because I can give you an example, and everybody knows Terry Congdon. She was 3-time All-American at UCLA, set for the national team. I did consulting with her for 7 years. And she called me one day, and here she's national team setter. And she said, Ruth, my setter and my hitter is having a problem connecting. We're playing in the regional tournament this weekend. What can I do to get them to connect? Well, first of all of you know, you can't do a lot of changes in someone's confidence by doing the same thing one more practice, because there may be some issues between the two that they've already developed, that the setter is saying, I can't set her, and the hitter saying, the setter can't set me. And so they now are kind of at each other. And I said, well, Terry, you haven't forgotten anything. You just need to remember that what would you have done as a setter? She said, I probably would have selected a different set. And I said, exactly. So you want her to go quick, right? And she said, yes. And I said, then go set her a 2, but 1 foot high, which a lot of people call a push now. And she did it. And she called me and she goes, Ruth, all the teams we played against, they weren't prepared for it because they scouted us because they knew we were always going to be doing a 1. So story is short, doesn't matter how experienced coach you are. Sometimes someone looks at it in a different perspective and helps you remember what you've not thought of for a while.
That's a really good example, because, Terry Condon was a tremendous setter. And if she was on the court, she would have figured out what to do. But being a coach, she got stuck. So
different set of eyes.
Absolutely.
I would have told her not to jump around in the huddle when they won and sprain her ankle so she couldn't go to the next match. I would have told her. She did that with UCLA.
Oh my goodness. All right. So what?
Well, I thought it was good. I hope coaches listen to this. I hope it opens up some opportunities for them, because I just feel like sometimes you just do the same thing over and over and over, and you're running yourself right down into the ground, and your players the same way. You really can do the same thing, but differently sometimes. And people just need to give, like your example, Ruth, a word or two, and it clicks. It just opens up a whole new set of ideas and approaches for you. It makes your players feel like you've just been reborn as a coach, their coach. They like that a lot. One of the things that I refused to do was play music in practice. In my last 2 or 3 years, we played a lot of music, and we were pretty darn successful. And I just, to this day, don't know why, but it worked. So I was okay with it. And, stuff like that. It's interesting. You get those perspectives from different coaches that have done it. Again, though, you can't get a consultant and then expect them to give you all the answers and you just go out and do what they say, because that's really not going to work. You have your own system you've developed, and what you want to do is improve the parts of that or change it in a way that it works for you, and then you're comfortable with it. You can't have somebody else coaching your team. You have to coach the team. But the information that sometimes you get helps you to improve that process. And I liked when Ashley said made me a better manager, because I know when I was international coach, I got accused of being a manager and not a coach, but I thought developing a program really that was not there at the point. We didn't have hardly any players come back. Managing was the most important thing, and to have your skilled people do what they needed to do. So I don't know. We sent Bob to Azerbaijan or someplace, but that was, he got
what a trip that was. My goodness.
Mick, you've said this several times, and I agree. I don't think administrators really want to make changes. I think it's a difficult, job to find a new coach. Volleyball coaches generally aren't paid that much. And so I think good administrators want to find ways to help coaches turn a corner, develop, show improvement. And so I think this I wasn't, I do it for coaches. They call me and we talk a little bit, but I think it's a really good idea. I think that it can help people take that next step, show improvement. And I think it's, a good administrator would be in favor of this.
The athletic director at USD is the one that really shared this with me. He told me that in the number of places he's been, I first met him at Houston and then at South Florida, and then he went to Evansville and then to the University of San Diego. And he said, you really like your coaches, and they've been there a long time, and they take care of the kids, and the kids graduate, and they're doing all the things. And for $10,000, $15,000, if you can bring in a consultant that helps them get unstuck, it is so much better for the players, the program, the university, the community, to not have a change in the coaching staff just because you're not winning as much as you used to. And that made so much sense to me. And he's been successful at every level of D1 program that he's been at as a athletic director. So I think he probably knows what he's talking about, and he continues to provide those opportunities to his coaches at the schools where he's the athletic director. So I got a lot out of that and got to thinking about it a lot. And so when I got in a situation to help, I tried to remember that.
So really, okay, so you guys have talked about college coaches. How about club coaches? How about club directors? How about if someone touches on that?
Well, my experience with that is they really are sensitive to not taking any direction, or a lot of a direction, let's say. There's so many people out there, so many coaches coming recruiting their players. It's very difficult if it ever gets to their players that they don't know everything they need to know about running the team. So I think they have an opportunity to really get some good mentoring. There's a coach in Florida who actually had a great team, and he became the volunteer at Minnesota for a year and a half just so he could study under Hugh out there before going back to his club to bring more information to his club. And I've seen several club coaches do that. I don't know what the rest of you have experienced, but I was kind of impressed with that.
Well, we've got 1 minute left, so Brian, go ahead.
My belief is the club will not sustain itself without having an identity. And that identity comes from the club owner or head coach. And the identity has to be something that can be filtered down. So to answer your question, I think it's even more vital that a high school, beginning high school, or a long-term high school, but the coaching business, the club business, they have to have a plan, an overall plan, and they need to be guided. Where are they getting this information? And they won't have longevity unless they have an identifiable way of doing things that they can pass on to the rest of their coaching staff.
Okay, that's super. All right, so we're ready. Let's bring in our guest today to join in our new format, which allows our guests to be on Buzz Reaction Show for 10 minutes after Master Coaches Conversations earlier Buzz Show. Each guest has a chance to ask our master coaches a question they have always wanted to ask, or they might have been afraid to ask, or just wanted an opinion on a topic or a situation. First, we have Haley Harris, Youth and Program Director for Slam Volleyball Club in Plano, Texas, and participated in our first Dallas Championship Skills Series Clinic. All right, next we have John, a structural engineer, coaches youth, and continues to play competitive beach volleyball in Trivandrum, India, and one of our frequent listeners on our weekly Buzz. Welcome to Haley and Jethrin.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with y'all, Ruth.
All right. But before you ask your secret questions, we would love to know how you have shared your experience of either attending our clinic or been a viewer of our weekly buzz. Let's go to you, Haley, first.
Okay, well, first off, Ruth, I absolutely loved the knowledge and the personal experience that y'all brought to the Master Coaches Clinic. And I am praying that we get y'all back, because I want all my coaches at my club to attend, because not only does it inspire us to keep coaching, but we hear different perspectives and we're able to ask questions. And y'all are so open with the knowledge to share and the different drills and ideas and how to exceed and really push these girls to the next level. And so I thank y'all for that. But my question, my question.
Great commercial.
I know. I brag about you all the time because it was probably the best clinic I've gone to, and I've been to quite a few. But my question is, I'm at the club level. I do.
Oh, wait. You don't get to ask your question yet. Wait. Time out. You don't get to ask yet. We're going to go to Jethro. Jethan first. Jethan, what's your thought about the weekly buzz? Jethan, are you there? Oh, we got to go unmute.
He's muted. Yeah.
Yeah. We got to help him here. There we
go. There you go.
Jethan, what have you thought about the weekly buzz, since you are a frequent viewer every single week for the last 38 weeks?
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh.
I don't think we got his audio on.
Well, yeah, he's not muted, but we're not hearing. I don't know. His mic is not turned on or what.
Be turned up. Mic needs to be turned up.
All right, Jethan, you work on that mic, but you go ahead and work on that. Can we hear you?
No.
No, we can't. We can't hear you. So we're going to go to Haley. Okay, Haley, you are interested in that secret question. Jethan, if your volume comes on, you just go ahead and talk and we'll come back to you. Okay, there you go, Haley.
Okay, my question is, at the club level, and I coach everything from 10s to 17s, especially in the high school, what can we do to best prepare them for the next level? What do college coaches, what's one of the number one things that y'all look for in a player to do D2, D1 volleyball?
Okay, Bob, we're going to you first.
Okay. Well, there's some things that you can't do, and that's, you're not going to change, what their athletic ability is, but you could improve the athletic ability. So I think at the club level now, what I'm seeing happening, quite a bit, and it kind of works well with, the rotation of players getting on the court and off the court, is there's usually some kind of a, physical training program that's implemented, maybe off to the side on one court with, multiple teams, or maybe in another area outside of the actual court facility, so that you can, continue to enhance and help them grow as an athlete, just to be as athletic as they can possibly be. And I think the other thing would be, and this is where we hope to accomplish some of this with our championship skills series, we started a couple of years ago, was what Brian mentioned about a club needs to have a method to their madness. They have to have a method that they use to teach, their skills, and have everybody doing, similar techniques. There's always individual aspects of it, but at least a method to what they're doing. And I think that's really helpful.
I agree. Good advice.
Hey, Brian?
The things as a coach I look for was 1, athletic ability, 2, character, and 3, skill. When I say athletic ability, we all love athletes, all of us. But character, it's amazing how everybody gets along when things are going well. The character comes out when things aren't going well. So I used to like to watch players that I recruited when they were losing, and how they reacted to the coach and how they reacted to their teammates, and what kind of control they had when they were losing. Character is critically important because you're going to be under a lot of stress. And 3rd, skill. A team is made up of all kinds of different people. I had a player that I didn't even want. She was slow and small, and I didn't want her, but she was a friend of one of my assistant coaches, and I took her, and she was a back row specialist that started at 3 Final Fours. So she started it. She was so quick to be a learner, but her back row skills were so good that, she was valuable. So we look for, there's a lot of things to make up a team. So, they might have a certain skill that helps the team in college win. And they must have good character. And if they're a good athlete, it's even better.
I agree. That's good.
All right, Mick?
Yeah, I think the club coaches do a pretty good job of trying to recruit the best athletes. I think they're doing a better job on a regular basis of teaching skills. But the one thing to prepare the kids for college, and Brian kind of alluded to it several times here, is how they think about their role on a team. Is it all about them, or are they there to make the team better? We have just seemingly lost that because of the recruiting, and it's hard for the club coaches to deal with this because on the one hand, the parents have them there because they want to have their youngster recruited. They want you to give them all this special attention to be recruited. Yet when they come to the college team, we want them to be a team player. We want them to be patient, work hard, care about their teammates, think about their team first. And many times they go through the club different and at a different level because of all the requirements to get recruited and those kinds of things. And somehow, if the club coaches could figure out a way to keep this all in perspective, not only for the athlete, but for their parents especially, that's one of the biggest things, because most of the problems come and you see all the kids in the portal now because it was all about them when they got recruited, and then they didn't get to start their first year, and man, they're out of there, or somebody said no to them. That was the biggest thing. They never heard no before, so they are out of there on that. So that's my opinion on that.
Okay, thank you. I like that.
Okay, so we have Jeff, and he is chatting with me, and his question is, how do we help to make injury-free athletes and keep them healthy, especially during COVID time? All right, we want to go with Mick?
Well, I would have started with Bob since he's coaching. He has all the answers right now. But
oh yeah, he's got all the answers. Okay.
If I were doing it though, Ruth, to answer your question, if I were doing it, I would constantly be somehow encouraging the athletes to sustain a minimal training program, to keep watching what they eat. In other words, eat like you were an athlete, not let that go a different direction. I would encourage them to be doing physical activity, but to be under control in the number of repetitions, because some kids actually work too hard, doing too many jumps or too many of these kinds of things. Bob alluded to the physical conditioning part. That would be important. And then watching volleyball, I think, is another way to keep them engaged mentally and active, and watching for certain things. If I'm a setter, what do I watch for in other setters? I'm looking at the footwork. I'm looking at the release. I'm looking at the location. I'm looking at the selection and the play I called. Those kinds of things could be stimulating, and that would be what I would be doing.
Okay, Brian, let me ask you this. Do you know of anybody using trigger point or body massage treatment? That was the second part of his question.
Do I know? Are you asking me here?
Our coaches.
No, I know several people that use both. I mean, that's a physical therapy that's very popular and used and very successful.
Yeah, and he's saying that he sees a lot of it being used in India, and he's happy because he's smiling. Wished he could talk.
No, and you know, it's a very useful and accepted method in the United States.
Okay, so we have one last question. If each of you had a few words that you would like to share with our viewers on why we should be lifelong learners, and let's go Haley first, and Jethan, if you can type it in the chat for me, that would be great. Why should you be lifelong learners?
Well, this game is constantly changing and it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, you're constantly adapting to new kids, different, whether we want a big, strong middle to block or a short middle, a shorter middle that's a little bit quicker, but you are constantly adapting to the type of kids you have. And there's constantly new drills and different ideas. And like y'all said earlier about the perspective, just alone learning from each other, it is such a great way to just grow with the sport and with your coaches and y'all passing down your knowledge. You make it easier for me to get excited about the sport year after year after year and learn and grow. So thank you for that.
Ashley, your passion is contagious. It's obvious, and I'm sure for the 10 to 17-year-olds all have a good time with you. I'm sure they all do.
Okay. Well, our time is up, and thanks to Haley and Jethan for joining us on today's Buzz Reaction Show, and wishing you both great success as you move safely into either your junior club schedules or competitive beach season for Jethan. We are excited to know that coaches are still lifelong learners.
Definitely.
For those coaches that are interested in our consulting services, please email from our link on our VB Master Coaches Instagram. For those viewers that want to be on our Buzz Reaction guest list, jump over to the VB Master Coaches Instagram, go to the bio and click on the sign up to be a guest. Thanks for joining us today and see you next week on the Buzz.